So, not sure if you noticed, but my debunk on MatPat Sonic Frontiers video is currently my most successful video to date. And the only reason I haven't done more videos entirely dedicated to his theories is largely because he didn't want to come off as biased as the Just Hate MatPat for Everything channel. But after seeing the same issue and its theories continue to go on, and on, and on, and on, I say it's about time I try to catch lightning in a bottle again, and find out if critical analysis reviews are the way to go for my debunks. So let's pick another Sonic theory and see what we have to work with. Let me see. Sometimes you make this too easy for me.
Rings. One of the most iconic collectibles in all of gaming. Sonic's rings are invaluable. Or are they? This is America after all. Everything's got itself a price. Everything is worth something.
You realize that statement is going to be true for any country that favors capitalism, right? Japan, Britain, Australia. Truly, none of these places are without their fair share of wealthy and occasionally greedy businessmen. Sorry, I know the video hasn't really started yet, but I always just hated that statement.
The Sonic series is full of them. Blue rings, dark rings, dash rings, red star rings, you name them, they're there. But that's not what you're thinking of when I say Sonic's rings, is it? No, you're thinking about these guys every game. For years, I've wondered how much these things would possibly be worth. I mean, they're just giant gold rings floating in the sky after all. Half the size of most of the characters in the franchise.
Well, right away, we know whatever you come up for these rings are gonna be incorrect. Because we know the size of the rings vary throughout the games and the different shows. But I'll get into that real quick after these next statements.
Before I could even think about writing this episode, Sega did something I never anticipated. They gave us an answer.
Quick side note, Sega has already given us answers before. Remember, Sonic Frontiers was just one big origin story for the Chaos Emeralds. Also, not to be super nitpicky, but the so-called answers he's talking about comes from the Sonic Speed Simulator video game for Roblox. A game that, while licensed under Sega, was not made directly by them and thus should be considered non-canon, and just exists as a cheap way to blame Sega for something that Roblox does with all their games. Which means this estimate he comes up with right here is entirely false.
It's a Sonic theory that the internet can get behind because I'm on your side, Sonic.
No, you're not. Now, for this next part of the video, MatPat tries to determine their quote-unquote value by explaining the scientific process of gold and its different variations. He also tries to find their real-world value before this, but again, that doesn't really matter.
Look at this. When using the lightning shield in games like Sonic 3, you're able to draw the rings towards you like a magnet. That is huge, because it immediately kills the idea that the rings are made of gold. Gold isn't magnetic. This means that the rings are either made of some other metal completely.
I'm gonna stop you right there. We actually have a lot of answers to tell us what the rings are and what they're made of. In the Archie comic series, the rings are physical manifestations of chaos energy. In the movies, the rings are portals used by advanced alien species. And in the Sonic the Hedgehog UK comics, something that I'll elaborate on further at the end of this video, all the rings were components to a machine called the Rock, or the Retro-Orbiting Chaos Collector, designed by Dr. Kintapor to make Sonic's reoccurring home planet of Morbius into a world free of all evil, but due to an unavoidable accident, the machine exploded, causing these magical, not scientific rings to irradiate with bits of chaos energy. And while we don't have an explanation like this anywhere in the mainline games, I think it's safe to assume with the rings' tight connection to the Chaos Emeralds, it's likely that the overall origins of the rings is that they're made of some natural form of chaos energy or magic as opposed to actual gold. The next part of this video involves MatPat trying to find the size of the rings. And yes, we already established why that's pointless, but I bring this up for the sake of fairness because, unlike his Sonic speed theory, which is also wrong by the way, he actually gets Sonic's canonical height of 3 feet 3 inches right. And now we finally come to the end of our theory, where MatPat gives his final results we so carefully discredited throughout this video.
It's actually more like a $9,600 neodymium ring. It's 100 of these bad boys, he's not just getting an extra life, he's basically getting his own life back as he retires. Except there is another issue here. The giant rings, they don't seem to be accurate to the size that these rings really are.
What have I been saying this whole time?
Sonic media, including both the games and new movies, Sonic's rings shrink in size to the proportions of a wedding ring.
A wedding ring that I already used as an example as something that's not made of gold, that is not currency. Why are you only now using all these points that have been You know what? I'm taking back my applause.
Taking all the numbers, that would make this neodymium ring worth, drumroll please, $11.
Now you may be wondering what problem I could possibly have with this number. Well, so long as we're apparently sharing notes with each other, MatPat already uses examples like Sonic Unleashed earlier when talking about exchange rates between countries. So if what he's saying is right, then this 50 ring chili dog from the game actually costs $550 plus tax. I don't know about you, but I don't know anyone in their right mind who would sell a chili dog for that price. And yes, I am aware MatPat brings up this same point in his video, but that only furthers my point. Rings are everywhere in the world of Sonic, and I mean everywhere, up for grabs. On the beach, in the city, on other planets somehow. It really is hard for things to be too pricey, in a world where money is constantly just lying around. And let's not forget, with rings being a universal currency in the world of Sonic the Hedgehog, such things like exchange rates between countries do not exist. Also, just to add fuel to the fire, in case you can't tell from this map, Sonic's quote-unquote Earth is very different from our Earth. Oh, and shout out to r/Sonic the Hedgehog on Reddit for making the one I'm using here. And so, when you take into account the various sizes of the ring, the fact that they are magical in origin, and the fact that you cannot equate them to real-life money no matter how hard you try, I hope you understand now when I tell you that everything said in this video was, say it with me now,
entirely pointless.
And now it's time for Compat's final thoughts.
Oh yes, I went there.
Look, in spite of everything I just said, I don't want to be too harsh. But this theory sadly follows the trend of MatPat's science and facts overlooking key details or distracting you from answers already in lore. Sorry, I've always wanted to say that. But on top of all that, and you'll forgive me for going a little tinfoil hatty here for a second, I would say this was all an elaborate way for MatPat to gossip about a Sega freemium game that wasn't even made by Sega. It was made by Roblox. And again, not pointing fingers at anyone, please remember my disclaimer at the start of the video, it just feels that way is all. And that's basically part of my overall critique on most MatPat theories over the years. Not only does it seem like he wants to continue this time-honored tradition of kicking this franchise in the nuts whenever possible, but a lot of his data is also cherry-picked or overlooks key details.
Remember that time that they told us Sonic was brown?
Yes, actually, I was about to bring up that perfect example. That panel MatPat showed you was from the UK Sonic the Comic, and it was to explain the origin of this version of Sonic. He's brown here so they can explain why he's blue. And I'm sure you must have noticed Dr. Kintabor from before in that panel. Well, that's because in that very accident with the rock involving a rotten egg.
Okay.
Not only did the machine explode, sending the rings everywhere, but it also turned the good doctor into the iconic Dr. Robotnik. While it may not be canon to the games, if you're gonna bring it up anyway, such info on the rings would be really good to have if you took more than 5 seconds to look at the Wikipedia page! But there you have it, why MatPat is wrong about Sonic's rings. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below on what theories you want me to debunk. Theory Debunk.